Welcome to Making Space for Community-Centric Fundraising, presented to you by AFP Advancement Northwest. Thank you to Thad and Cole, the program co-chairs. Hey, Cecilia, for bringing this session today. This is kind of an intro session leading up to our annual conference coming up on May 14th and May 21st, 2 Fridays in a row that will have a really strong community-centric fundraising lens. So we're doing a few kind of precursor sessions to allow people to dig into the principles and to what community-centric fundraising is. So that's what today's about. We're going to be going for about an hour and a half. So we're starting here at 11:30 on the in Pacific time, and we'll go till about 1. So our agenda today, we're going to start with some welcomes and intros, some time to connect. Oh, thanks. Daniel posted conference detail link in the chat. I'll definitely be linking to that later too. So welcome and intros. I'm going to talk a little bit about what community-centric fundraising is, and I'm going to refer to it as CCF a lot today. So that's the acronym you'll be hearing a lot if you're not already familiar with community-centric fundraising. I will be jumping in and talking about what CCF is and the core principles before we get into kind of the meat of our event today, which is some really like generative time for us to think about how to make space in our work for community-centric fundraising. So that's going to be the main activity, and then we'll close out. So since this is going to be pretty generative, you might need some paper or like a blank document or something to take notes. I'll also be providing a notes document, but however you like to take notes, you might want to be ready for that. Also, much of this session is going to be in breakout rooms, digging deep into figuring out how to make space in your own personal work. So just be ready for that. We're also going to be using the chat box a lot during this whole event. So just so you know, in case you would like to increase the font size, I really love a bigger font size. You can click on your chat box and hold down either your control or your command key, hold that and add the plus sign, and it'll increase your font size. If you go too big, you can just do the opposite and do minus. But it's kind of fun to have a bigger font there. You can see a little bit better. Also, if you'd like to use closed captioning today, we have the live transcript feature enabled. So you should be able to see an icon at the bottom of your Zoom that says live transcript, and you can either have that going or you can have it on the side. Those captions are auto-generated today, so please know that they won't be perfect. But this is my reminder to myself. I will do my best to enunciate and speak at a reasonable pace. Try my best. So intros, just a little bit about me. My name is Erika Chen. I am a consultant. I'm a founding member of the Community-Centric Fundraising movement. In my spare time, mostly pre-COVID, I love to play sand volleyball. I am a dog mom. I'm going to do an image description for any of our friends with low vision. Also, I use she, her pronouns. I am a multiracial woman, and I say that because I think I look quite multiracial. I'm Chinese, Puerto Rican, and white. I have light brown skin. I'm in my early 30s. I have brown eyes. My hair today is kind of a dark purple color. And I'm not wearing glasses today. I usually wear glasses, and I'm wearing a white t-shirt and some dangly star and moon earrings. That's a little bit about me. I'd also like to just start out with an acknowledgement that we are on Native land. I am currently in Seattle on the land of the Duwamish and Coast Salish people, unceded land. If you would like to share whose land you are on, or if you want to look it up, you can use native-land.ca. Please feel free to add to the chat box the name of the tribes on whose land you live, work, and play. And just know that, land acknowledgements are really a first step. They don't take the place of building authentic relationships, doing active work to reconcile and repair with Native tribes, and to decolonize. If you want to think about some other things you can do, financial contributions, I think, are always appreciated. Personally, I give monthly to Real Rent Duwamish. And I would encourage you to look up your tribes as well and how you can support and amplify their work. Another thing to do is, following along with Native-led, Indigenous-led movements like Land Back and Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two Spirits. Yesterday was the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. So if you didn't see anything on that yesterday, I definitely encourage you to go look up the hashtag, look up the movement, and spread some awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two Spirits. So thank you to everybody sharing your own land acknowledgements in the chat. Looks like we've got people from all over the place, and a lot of tribes, a lot of land represented all over Turtle Island, I'm guessing. I'd also like to just acknowledge that we are still in the COVID-19 pandemic. Vaccination rates are going up, which is great, but we're still in the pandemic. We still have systemic racism. We also have climate change. The past year and a half, I think, have just really shown us how intensely we need to be devoted to great change in our nation, in our world, in ourselves. So I'd just like to spend a moment to acknowledge that. Our goals for today, like I said, I want to do a lot of idea generation today, but here's our goals. We want to intro community-centric fundraising to anybody who might not already be familiar with the principles and the movement. And also really the majority of our time, I want to look into what we need to stop doing in order to be more community-centric. So I think a lot of times when we have something new, a new idea, a new movement, something new in our sector, it's always like, what can we do? What can we add on? But actually we sometimes need to slow down and actually make space for that innovation. So we'll be talking about that today. Another goal, I think, is just to have fun. Let's build connection and trust with each other and remind ourselves that we're all on our own learning journeys. So a few community agreements. I'm going to ask that folks keep your mic muted unless asked to unmute. We do encourage you to turn on your video to make this event feel more personal, but of course, if you don't want to, that is totally okay. And we actually are recording this today. Our registrations exceeded the number of people we could have here. We have 82 people right now. That's good. We had more people register that couldn't be here. So we're going to record and probably try to make this available to those folks. So if you don't want to be recorded, you can keep your camera off. We're going to have breakout rooms. I don't think those will be recorded. Please also consider using your pronouns in your display name. You can change that by clicking the 3 dots in the top right corner of your Zoom video box and then clicking rename. And you can add your pronouns and the other info you want in there. I also like to just remember, we're all humans. So, a lot of us have families or pets or children who may or may not make an appearance, and that's okay. I have a dog. Hopefully she'll be quiet this whole time, but we're all human responsibilities and lives. So just know that that's okay. Also, this is a note to myself as well. Drink water, have some snacks, take a break if you need to, be kind to yourself. And also just what's said here stays here, what's learned here leaves here. So just thinking about when we're in discussions with each other, try to speak from your own experience. If someone has an experience that doesn't match your own, try to practice empathy and just listening, and especially if that person is coming from a marginalized group. These are some more community agreements that are actually from the Advancement Northwest Board. We use these at our board meetings and committee meetings. So experience discomfort, allow and embrace a range of challenging feelings to be experienced in order to open dialogue and create awareness so that we can affect change. Expect and accept non-closure, enter free from assumptions, be present and open to learning, and know that you made progress. Stay engaged, communicate openly and honestly, Actively listen with the heart, be curious about yourself and others, practice self-awareness, and seek understanding with empathy. And lastly, speak your truth, practice vulnerability, and listen to understand. So I think a lot of you have already started this, but if you want to add it to the chat box, your name, pronouns, organization, and your role, or if maybe you're looking right now, we can get that connection going and see who's here. And while we're also doing that, I also have another little piece of connection that I would love to, let me put this in the chat. Intros. Okay. Welcome Natalia, Helen, Tori. Hey, Erika. Katie, Virginia. Oh, hey, Kate. Hillary, Larissa. Hi. Hi, Jen. Jessica, Ori, Colleen. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to read everybody's names, but I'm so glad you're all here. Hey, Peter. And I'd also love to do this little connection piece. If you want to go to menti.com and enter in this code, or you can click the link I just put in there so you don't actually have to type in the code. Either way. Hey, Alistair. Hey, Jessica. Oh my God, so many of my friends are here. Hi, everybody. I'm going to put the link in here again if you want to fill out this little Mentimeter mentee thing. There's some questions about your familiarity with CCF and how you're feeling today. Let me see if I can. Look, people are filling it out. Hey, Tammy. Thanks for being here. For anyone just joining us, I see some folks are still trickling in. We're doing some connection right now. You can add to the chat box to introduce yourself and also go ahead and fill out this mentee. We've got no CCF pros in the house today. I think y'all are underestimating yourself. No, I probably wouldn't even call myself a CCF pro, so. Cool, so we have quite a few people who this is their first time hearing about CCF. A lot of folks who at least have read and are familiar with the principles. And even some folks already starting to implement CCF. I love that. We got a good mix of people here today. Can I do some quick math? How many people have filled this out? Okay, not quite everybody. Welcome in. We've still got some people arriving. If you're just arriving and you want to join in and fill out our little interactive survey we have going here. Okay, let's see. Did you all already do the second question? Oh. Okay, good. Now it seems like maybe you're filling in the second question. Okay, so I'm going to let them come in a little bit more before I start reading them because this is like an interactive word cloud and it'll continue to keep the words bigger that more people are adding. A lot of curious, seems like. Oh, thanks, Cecilia. Yes, I apparently did need to advance the slide. Thank you. I'll remember that for next time, maybe. Okay, so still a lot of curious, a lot of excited, overwhelmed, totally fair, hopeful, inspired, ready, interested, thrilled, try to see the small ones too, needed, overdue, eager, learning, unsure, empowered, Yes. This is great. I love starting with a question about how we're feeling, and we're going to do this later too to see if your feelings change. Curious still seems to be the biggest, excited, interested, hopeful. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much for contributing. So let's get into it, okay? What is CCF? What is community-centric fundraising? I will share in the chat a video that we put up last July, when we were launching the CCF website. So if you want to save it for later and check out a little bit more in depth and hear from more of the co-founders about what CCF is, there's a video for you. Basically, community-centric fundraising is two things. It's a fundraising model and it's a movement. There's an image on the screen that on the right side of the slide, it says centered around community, with a line drawing of 3 people with a plus, a check mark, and a heart above their heads. And it says, we need a fundraising model in which we respect donors and build strong relationships with them, but one that they are not at the center of. The community we serve and benefit from must be centered. There's also another image, it says movement building, with a line drawing of a fist next to it. And it says, we envision a sector that believes in the communities, in the principles of community-centric fundraising, that uses these fundraising principles and practices to build the power and voice of communities of color. So community-centric fundraising is a fundraising model that is grounded in equity and social justice. We prioritize the entire community over individual organizations. We foster a sense of belonging and interdependence. We present our work not as individual transactions, but holistically, and we encourage mutual support between nonprofits. We do like to point out that our work is not mutually exclusive to the traditional donor-centric fundraising approach. Like I said, we still envision donors as part of our overall community, and therefore they are still included in community-centric fundraising. However, they're just not the only people or the only thing at the center of the work. A lot of donor-centric techniques are still important and necessary, and they work to raise dollars that our orgs need. But we also believe that dollars raised shouldn't be the only metric that we use to determine what works and what success looks like. So there are just some places where donor-centric fundraising doesn't prioritize the community and doesn't work for our communities of color. Community-centric fundraising is also a movement to evolve how fundraising is done in the nonprofit sector. Its goal is to support fundraisers and other nonprofit professionals to re-examine every fundraising philosophy and practice that they have been taught, engage in vigorous ongoing conversations, and explore doing fundraising in ways that reduce harm and further social justice. So I'm going to just go through the 10 principles now. I know most people here today said that they were already familiar or had at least read them. Personally, I'm even a co-founder and I do not have all of these memorized. So I think that it's good to just re-ground ourselves in the principles before we jump in. So here are the principles. And I do also want to share, I probably have some other things to share in the chat. So here's stuff about being a movement, because that means some specific things. Here's a link to our principles. If you're interested in making the principles your desktop background, this is a zip file. I just put it in the chat. And some of them are really, they're all really pretty. I'm partial to some over the others, but our amazing brand marketing editor, everything, person, Stacy, made them and they're beautiful. So, okay, the principles. Number 1, fundraising must be grounded in race, equity, and social justice. 2, individual organizational missions are not as important as the collective community. 3, nonprofits are generous with and mutually supportive of one another. 4, all who engage in strengthening the community are equally valued, whether volunteer, staff, donor, or board member. 5, time is valued equally as money. 6, We treat donors as partners, and this means we are transparent, assume best intentions, and occasionally have difficult conversations. 7, we foster a sense of belonging, not othering. 8, we promote the understanding that everyone, donors, staff, funders, board members, volunteers, personally benefits from engaging in the work of social justice. It's not just charity, it's compassion. 9, we seek the work of social justice as holistic and transformative, not transactional. And 10, we recognize that healing and liberation requires a commitment to economic justice. So I will also really quickly share another kind of takeaway for you, so you can take the backgrounds away with you. This is also a list of CCF aligned actions. It's just something we put together for our launch last year. It's just another starting place if you're just getting started and are trying to figure out some other ways to start incorporating CCF. We put together that aligned actions list. Okay, so let's get into some discussions, making space for CCF. This is a liberating structure. It's actually called Making Space with TRIZ. And TRIZ is a Russian acronym. I will tell you what it means later. But if you're not familiar with liberating structures, they are easy to learn microstructures that are designed to include everyone in shaping next steps. Sorry about the dog. Liberating structures enhance relational coordination and trust, and they quickly foster lively participation in groups of any size. So if you want to learn more about liberating structures, there's the link in the chat. So making space. This is about stopping counterproductive activities and behaviors and making space for innovation. This is a quote from Pablo Picasso, who has some problematic stuff of his own, but I think it's a good quote. Every act of creation is first an act of destruction. So today we're going to be asking this question: what must we stop doing to make progress on our deepest purpose? So I think this is an interesting way to think about it. Not every way to implement CCF principles is to start doing something. Some of it is actually things you need to stop doing. So that's what this liberating structure is all about, making space with TRIZ. I'm glad some folks are already familiar and excited about it. And TRIZ is a Russian acronym. Like I said, it translates to Theory of Inventive Problem Solving. So yeah, that's what this is all about. Why are we doing it? We want to make it possible to speak the unspeakable, get skeletons out of the closet, make space for innovation, and lay the groundwork for creative destruction by doing the hard work in a fun way. An example of this from their website is like trying to reduce harm to patients experiencing safety lapses. So like wrong side surgeries, patient falls, stuff like that in a hospital. So they asked themselves the question, how can we make sure we always operate on the wrong side? So then they came up with how to always have bad results and then making sure they're not doing those things. So we're going to do a similar thing today. So let's start with like a little bit of a group brainstorm here. I put together some ideas, but I'd love to hear more from you. What is the most unwanted result in our fundraising if you want to be community-centric? So is it devising policies and practices that don't work for our community? Is it making sure we just keep doing the same things with the same people, hoping we get different results? Grounding our fundraising in white dominant culture and racial inequity while trying to advance social injustices in our missions. What else do you all think? What are some unwanted results? What's that most unwanted result? So Jessica says no one is actually helped by people's giving. Sarah says chasing dollars at the expense of what's best for community. Yeah. Anita, being our own barriers. Sorry, we're all scrolling in so fast now. Great. Erika, moving programs for funders rather than for community. Yep. Not centering and belonging, only giving attention to individuals with generational wealth, not defining or grounding our work in community, elitism, not owning our white privilege and racist history, continuation of an inequitable system. I like that one a lot. Yes. Performative. Yeah, these are all really great. Okay. So here's the one I came up with, and let me know if you disagree. But I think it's very similar to what a lot of you are saying. So here's our question. How can we fundraise to perpetuate the inequities we're seeking to address? Right, so the nonprofit sector as a whole is set up to address social injustices, right? Like poverty, hunger, homelessness, all these things that our missions are all working collectively to try and solve these social problems. So if you think about your own mission or your own values, what inequities are you in your work trying to address? And then our most unwanted result, I think, is how can our fundraising perpetuate those same injustices that we are working to fix in our society? What do y'all think? Anyone want to give like thumbs up? Do you like this as our like most unwanted result? We got 1, 2, 4, 6. Okay, we got some thumbs up. 9, 11, great. Oh, and a clap. Thank you. Yes, we're gonna get into this a little bit more. Someone's laughing. That's great. One of our goals is to have fun. Okay, so we're gonna do a few breakout groups. So we're gonna go through 3 steps, 3 breakout sessions. This is gonna be the first one. You're gonna be with the same group each time, so you can kind of dig even deeper with your same folks each time. So our first step is to make a list of everything you can do to perpetuate the social injustices in your fundraising. I'm gonna give you a notes document. Oh no, where's my notes document? Well, it doesn't have my fun little things, but okay. Here's a notes document. Okay, someone asked for an example in the chat. James asked for an example, and then a few other people answered. So Sarah said, using funds raised to center white voices. Andrea said, playing small, not thinking about the big context of your mission. Karina said, staying silent in the face of injustice in order to not offend. I think some other examples of how you can fundraise to perpetuate these social injustices are like, you know, if a donor says something that's problematic or says something that would be considered not in alignment with your values, and possibly perpetuating, you know, racism or sexism, and allowing, you know, donors to continue that line of thinking and just to continue and donate and be aligned with your organization because of their money, and it just kind of ignoring that their values and their statements don't align. So I think that's one example. I think these breakout rooms, you're going to have a lot of good time and discussion to help each other come up with these examples. So I put a notes document in the, okay, good. It looks like a lot of you are already in there. So the instructions are on the first tab, and then there's a bunch of tabs at the bottom you can scroll over. If you're going to use this notes document, try to make sure that you're in the tab that correlates to the breakout group that you're going to. It's not required that you use this notes document. I just set it up for you. If you'd rather write your own notes on paper or just talk, that's okay too. I just wanted to set this up just so you could have a place, and also so you could scroll through later and see what ideas other groups generated. Okay, so again, what you're doing for the next 10 minutes, you're going to be in small groups of probably about 3 people, is you're going to work just on creating a list of all the things to get that bad result, to get that most unwanted result. So answering the question, how can we fundraise? Like, what fundraising practices can we do that are going to I can put it in the chat before you go so that it's also in the chat box. Thank you, Peter, for sharing another example. Okay, so I'm going to cue Rocky to please send everybody to our breakout groups for 10 minutes, and we'll give you some warning ahead of time, and then you'll have 1 minute at the end before you're pulled back to the main group. Welcome back. Okay, looks like everyone's back. Welcome. How'd that first step go? I would love to hear from you all, maybe in the chat box, if you want to add like one thing from your list. What's one thing that you can do in your fundraising practices to perpetuate the social injustices that we're seeking seeking to address? And you're going to be back in those same breakout groups, so don't worry, you're going to go back and be with those same folks and continue your discussions. If there's anyone that like particularly wants to share something that came up for them and you want to use the raise hand function, you can hit at the bottom of your Zoom screen the reactions, and then you can hit raise hand and it'll show me that you would like to share. Let's see some things in. Jennifer says from group 15, woohoo. Absolutely make sure to keep the optics of your organization as white saviors that go around to make sure that you're correcting what other people are obviously doing wrong. Yeah. Nicole says their crown jewel is absolutely, oh wait, that's the same one. Susan says giving major donors more benefits or access to leadership. Yep. Kate says lack of presence on the board or staff leadership of people with lived experiences in your issue or community. Totally. Jennifer says continue Black Tie Gala fundraising events. Brian says let donors identify problems and define solutions. Yes. Nicole requiring board minimums and give gets. Hong, continue to hoard resources and donor attention and not lift up the visibility of other organizations doing shared work. Shannon says exploit your program participants to gain empathy of wealthy donors. Totally, all these are great. Oh my gosh, there's more coming in. This is amazing. Teresa says overuse of you in fundraising appeals, which gives donors all the credit. Sarah says all of these things, yes. Barbara says only using happy people in publication social media when the people you're serving are actually not happy for a wide variety of reasons. That says volunteerism vibes. Yes. Exploiting young people. Centering needs of donors. Cool. Oh my gosh, there's so many things in here. Okay, it looks like you all have some really great lists, and I think I saw some great lists going in the notes document too. We're going to go on to step 2. Okay, so step 2 is you're going to go back and look at that list that you created in step 1, and you're going to ask yourself, is there anything that I am doing or that my team, that we're doing that resembles this at all? So you can make a second list of your fundraising activities and tactics that are counterproductive and you want to be brutally honest. Or if you're using the notes document, you can just use column B of the spreadsheet and put like X's next to things that you might be doing or that resemble something that you might be doing. So that is our second step. Here, I'll put it in the chat so you remember. We're gonna have another about 10 minutes to do this second step. And I also added the second step to the instructions tab of the notes document. So again, just look at your first list and think internally about yourself and your own work, and are you doing anything that's similar to that? And you're gonna go back to those same groups, and we'll send you all there now. Rocky will do that for us. Please and thank you. Yay. We still have 76 people here from 82 at the beginning. So I think that's great. 77. Welcome back, everybody. How did step 2 go? I'm going to put it in the chat. Maybe if you'd like to share one thing that you or your team, I won't say names when I read them out loud, but what are you doing that is counterproductive to incorporating CCF principles? Membership and transactional giving, like the transactional, what are donors getting for their gift? Yep, that's a very common one, I would say. Relying on empathy, yes. Vu had a great article that he did a TBT post about a few weeks ago on moving from empathy to, oh gosh, now I'm blanking, justice and like solidarity. I forget what the words were. Preparing press releases for gifts purely based on dollar amount. Calling major donors only for thank yous. Allowing board members to boss us fundraisers around, trying to balance appeasing education and boundaries. Doing the same thing year to year, expecting different results. Yes, I can find that article and post it. I'll maybe do that when you're in your next breakout, and then I'll share it when y'all get back. Not having hard conversations. Yeah, avoiding the tough stuff. Absolutely. And again, if anybody wants to do the raise hand function to talk a little bit more, we're doing pretty well on time. So if anybody wants to share, we'll have more sharing time at the end too. Having all board members who are upper class and privileged, and almost no one who has benefited from the services, providing VIP perks. Totally. Okay, so our third step now, here it is, our third and final step. Now we have two lists, right? We have the one of all the stuff that's counterproductive. We have the one of those counterproductive things, what are we currently doing? So our final step is now deciding of the things we're currently doing, what are we going to stop? What are we going to commit to today? What actions, activities, behaviors, what are we going to stop? And try to remember that this isn't a time for adding new ideas for things to do. This is a time to think about what we're going to stop. What can we stop doing? It's worth the wait. We're going to have that annual conference coming up. There's going to be so much time to generate ideas of new things to start. But today is, remember, it's about making space, right? Creative destruction, making room for that innovation and making room for CCF. So what are the things that you can stop that you know create undesirable results in order to incorporate CCF principles into your work? So these should all be statements like, I will stop, we will stop. That should be this final list, is things that you're going to stop. During this step, in your discussions with your groups, you can also think about who else needs to be included, right? Because we're all, I'm sure a lot of us are at different roles, different hierarchical dynamics and power structures. So thinking about what you can stop specifically, what you have the power to do, what's in your role, and then also what are the things you want your team to stop, who do you need to consider, who else needs to be included in stopping those sorts of behaviors. But let's spend this last time in your breakout groups. So if you do want to stay connected with the people you've been in your breakout groups, also this is your last chance to like exchange LinkedIn's or emails or anything. If you want to stay in touch, feel free to do that in your breakout groups. But this is our last little 10-minute time, and really want y'all to come away with at least one thing, one statement of something that you're going to stop to make room for CCF. So Rocky will open those rooms, and you're going to go back for your third and final breakout time. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Yay, we did all 3 steps. Okay, somebody asked for a link to that article I mentioned from Vu on moving from empathy to trust and justice. So I just put that in the chat before I forget. And actually, this is kind of a good plug because myself, Rocky, and one other of our CCF co-founders, Rehana, the 3 of us designed one of the sessions for the annual conference. Our session is going to be on May 21st, and it's going to be about making your ask. It's called the fundraising ask, but make it community-centric. And we'll be touching on this subject as well. So how did it go? What did you get for step 3? Jennifer says, oh gosh, step 3 was really difficult. That's totally fair. It's good just to start thinking about it. Maybe some others of you had a little bit better of a time. Was there one thing, at least one thing that you came up with that you're going to stop? What is your I will stop sentence? If you want to add it to the chat, or if anybody else, if you want to come off mute, if you want to do the raise hand function and tell us a little bit about your experience with this whole liberating structure today, making space. I'll read a few of these. We will stop our VIP reception. I will stop thinking that I don't have enough power to help change happen. I love that. I will stop following the same email templates, donor acknowledgement letters made several years ago. I will stop pre-screening invitation lists and invite everyone. I will stop focusing on the top of the pyramid and make sure all donors get powerful thank yous and cool opportunities. Susan, I love that. And actually, one of our CCF writers, Chris, published a new article a few days ago that was awesome about a few times CCF stuff has worked. And one of their things was, changing the donor pyramid to not be dollars, but to be percentage of income. And I thought that was so cool because it like totally changes your whole pyramid, right? Stop appealing to white saviorhood complex to raise funds. Stop overrepresenting diversity in publication photos. Yeah, these are great. These are amazing. Stop hoarding information. Stop prioritizing the needs of donors. Stop being on standby and speak up more on behalf of the communities we serve. I love these. These are so great. Thank you all. And just a reminder, the notes document, I know not everybody utilized it, but if anybody wants to go in and look at all the other things, all these ideas generated by all the amazing brains in the room today, you can always go back and take a look at that notes document. So as we close out today, I want to do a reminder of what our goals were. So we wanted to intro CCF, movement and principles. We wanted to look at what we need to stop doing in order to start being more community-centric. And we wanted to have fun, build connection and trust with each other, and remind ourselves we're on a learning journey. So I want to do one more of these mentee polls. And are we recording the chat session will be available? I think the chat is always downloaded for the host afterwards. So I think we can hopefully make that available, and we are recording the session. So I also believe, I'm guessing, hoping that most of the stuff in the chat is also in the notes document. But go ahead and let's do our first question here for this last checkout mentee. Did we meet our goals? So the goals are on here again. Increasing understanding of CCF. If it helped you discover at least one action, and enjoy the workshop. I love that enjoyed the workshop is our highest average right now, 4.5. We're all in the 4s and above. So I love that. I think that's great. Thank you. It's really up to you all, right? I mean, it's what you put into it is what you get out of it, is what I always think. So this is great for you all. I'm really happy. Thank you all for being here. And let's do our last checkout question is now, how are you feeling? We had all those emotions in the beginning around being curious, maybe a little overwhelmed, being excited. How are you feeling now? Have your emotions changed? Inspired, energized? Yes, love that. Empowered, ready, doable. I love doable. Yes. Accountable, reflective, still curious, totally fine. As more of these are coming in, I thought I might have seen a question in the chat. Are there other CCF talks at AFP going to be free and open to non-registrants for the conference? That's a good question. I don't know about, maybe Thad can answer in the chat, or Thad and Cole are here as the program chairs. I know we have definitely discussed the possibility of kind of turning this into a series outside of the conference as well. So, and I think we have some sponsors who are interested in sponsoring this work to continue to make it free and open. So the answer to that is hopefully yes, so we don't have anything currently planned. Thank you everybody for the gratitude in the chat. I really love that. Cool. And looks like most of our words are in, and the overwhelming is inspired and energized, accountable, empowered. This is so great. Thank you all. So I want to just do our last little plug here for the conference. And just so you know, I consider you all now CCF members, and you can use the discount code CCF member if you haven't registered for the conference yet. And you get the member rate. If you're not an AFP member, you can still get the member rate for the conference that's coming up on May 14th and May 21st. It's 2 Fridays. And even if you can't come to the whole thing live, everything will be recorded and you'll have access to all the materials, slides, and the recordings and everything. So please consider coming to the conference. There's also an even a lower rate if you've been affected by COVID. I think that rate's $100 for the whole 2 days. So if you have been affected and that's if that's something you want to think about, please consider it. So hope to see you there. I will be doing a session at the conference, like I said, with Rocky and Rayhana, but feel free to stay connected with me otherwise as well. There's my website, my LinkedIn, and if you want to stay connected with CCF and the Community-Centric Fundraising community, definitely keep track of our hub, our website, our Instagram, Twitter, and then we have a really robust community on Slack. And if you're not already a part of it, I would definitely recommend joining our Slack channel. There's place-based channels, so you can connect to other people in Seattle or wherever you're from. There's BIPOC channel, there's opportunities you can share and look for jobs. There's just so much going on our Slack. So I would definitely recommend joining if you haven't already. It's 1:01 now, so thank you all for being here, sticking around, and I'll stay on for another few minutes if anybody has any questions or wants to chat, and then we'll make these slides available too for all the links and everything else that's been shared. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.